सुनाई दे रहा है आपको? बोलने का क्या फायदा अगर सुनाई नहीं दे रहा? First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this very interesting conference. Thank you, Dr. Patel, Dr. Bashir, my dear friend, Visuji, who unfortunately not here. And then my apologies for not being with you for the last 2 days. I have attended many conferences where the person who gives a valedictory lecture speaks on subjects unrelated to the conference. And I'm sure many of you have had similar experience. But mercifully, I have had some briefing from the organizers, so I'm a bit aware of what has been discussed. First of all, congratulations for organizing a conference of this theme. It is not often that a conversation on cultures of childhood and child are really discussed. And secondly, congratulations for organizing something at the South Asian level. There are very few things, we were joking, very few South Asian things which really work. Of course, our university is one of them which works. And every time we have an opportunity to interact with colleagues in other South Asian countries, invite them or be invited, we need to grab those opportunities. We are the only region in the world which does not interact that much. Our families do, our relatives do, because they spread all over the place. But professionally, we do not get that opportunity. So it's always a bold initiative. And I remember in the early days of 80s and 90s, when we wanted to organize any conference at South Asian level, our best location was, guess what? Bangkok. Because we could go to Bangkok, all of us, without bothering each other about visas. The life has come full circle. Visa problem has become even more acute these days, not just in South Asia, but around the world. So I really appreciate the effort that goes in organizing a South Asian level conversation. And those of you who have traveled from outside India, warm welcome, stay longer. These are the days of winter in Delhi, so please. I want to start by saying that South Asia hosts the largest number of children in any region of the world. My guess is that at least 500 million, if not more. Since census in India is a bit old, I won't guess. But the last time we counted was 2011, no? So, but another. And therefore, in a region where such a large number of children exist, it is somewhat disappointing, in my view, that we don't have a field of study focused on child development, childhood. And I do hope that this conference triggers that process. By interacting with practitioners in the last 2 days, as part of your co-sponsorship with Kai and Bal Suraksha, Save the Children groups, you have taken a very positive step forward. From 2001 onwards in Priya, we used to organize conferences on citizenship and governance. And each conference, located in different parts of the country every year, used to have mandatory joint presentation with practitioners and academics. And the field of study in governance, after 2007-8, developed that practice. A lot of that was focused on local governance at that time. So in that sense, by partnering with practitioners and academics, Together, you have, I think, broken a very fresh ground towards creating a field of study. It is very difficult to find reasonable definitions of who is a child. And the problem is that much of the legal definition of childhood relates to juvenile delinquency. And the biggest debate at the moment is whether a 17-year-old can be treated as adult if he or she commits a crime. And linking child stage to majority age, the 18 or what in most countries of the region, I think is a problem. I think the best definition I have seen is to link it to 0 to puberty. And I would say in South Asia that will be at best 10 or 11. There is a lot of discussion on youth these days, a lot of discussion on adolescence these days, but that seems to confuse the matter with child. So I would like to propose that when we talk about child, we limit ourselves to 0 to 10 and get out of the debate on juvenile delinquency, because that is not the framework of understanding child and child development. The second thing that has happened historically in matters related to children is that the developmental field, UNICEF, Bal Suraksha, CRY, all over the world, but more so in South Asia, has been the driving force to do work with children, but not necessarily to understand child or childhood. Because we as development organizations tend to first aspire what needs to change or what needs to improve and build a program around that, very good programs. I am not against that. I have done that 30 years of my life earlier. But when your starting point is to improve, you tend to look at problems. And I must say that several papers here, I am not making a criticism of your work, several papers here look at the problems that child faces related to all kinds of societal difficulties. How do we build a body of knowledge in South Asia which starts by saying, what is child, what is childhood, what is developmental stages of childhood? Much of the education world still works on Piaget's cognitive development model. Whatever label we give it, but the foundational research or theorization continues. And those who have moved beyond will come to Erickson's childhood and society and its stages. Why can't we have a South Asian childhood and society? Changes from 0 to 10 as well as 10 onwards always have stages, steps. कोई उसे कहता है चरण है, कोई कहता है मंजिल है, कोई कहते हैं पद है. Doesn't matter. There are phases, stages. But our conceptualization of phases and stages in South Asia needs to be inductively built. So my appeal to all of you who are interested in topic, doing some research, is to build a body of theory which is inductively linked to the lived experience of children in our societies. And from that body of theory then develop a field of study. I want to separate the notion that you can link children with mothers. That's important, but only partial. When we were contesting and putting pressure on Government of India to create a ministry for women, we tagged children. National Ministry is Women and Child Development. Why not just women? and then a separate university on child. By combining the two, the perspective harmful both to women and to children. There is no fatherhood, there is no gone. We need, if South Asia hosts 500 million children, and we have a strong intellectual tradition, very proud of our intellectual tradition, our academic institutions, our development practitioners. My appeal to you is, let us work together to figure out a way by which we create a field of study on children, childhood and society, whatever way you want to conceptualize. It learns from developmental programming, but doesn't start from that. UNICEF and CRI are not the starting point of theorizing. They provide evidence, insights towards that theorizing. And that theorizing will come from not just one discipline, as many of you represent here, it will come from all disciplines. So multidisciplinary approach to theorizing childhood in South Asia, that is what I have come here to appeal to you. I am not a scholar studying children, but one of the things about children is that we have all been one before. And sometimes we tend to theorize from our lived experience. And when we theorize from our lived experience, our own children protest. So I was telling Dr. Pathak that in the morning I open the door and go and pick up the newspaper. And my children say, that's an old-fashioned way of learning about news. I said, no, my relationship with newspaper is more than finding out news. It's an act of being with a cup of tea. It's my time. Newspaper is a bahana. So, how can we distance ourselves from our individual lived experience as children, from our own individual stories, to look at childhood and child development in South Asia with its distinctive cultural context, as many of you have talked about and written as well. Because that body of knowledge will then provide foundational insights in not only public programming, but also the work that many development organizations do. So all of you who have been studying some aspect of childhood, may I appeal to you to not study from the point of view of what deficits are there, but what actually is the positive being of growth of children. And then look at societal constraints which impinge upon the development of children in different contexts, thereby creating a difficult, partial, negative experience. Many people in the field of participation, which is something that I have done many years also, many people in the field of participation say, I am enabling, facilitating community participation, children participation, women's participation, tribal, Dalit, etc. In my view, participation to shape my own future is a natural human phenomenon. Obstacles to participation come from society, from family, from class, from gender, from race, from ethnicity, from age. So my role is to support gradual shifting of those obstacles. My role is not to promote participation. My role is to reduce obstacles, contribute towards reducing obstacles that inhibit participation. Similar point of view, I am suggesting we look at the study of children, childhood, and child development. Because there is a joy and hope even in the most desperate situations of childhood. And if we only come to study of childhood from the lens of what needs to improve, we tend to focus on what is wrong, what is missing. But sometimes we need to also reaffirm what needs to be continued, what needs to be lived in. And this approach to study of childhood and children, if I may say so, might develop into a more coherent field of study. So my appeal to you is basically to consider as a consequence, as a follow-up of this conference, how can we mobilize all those committed to understanding, supporting, improving the conditions of children and childhood, but understanding also, not just improving. Create maybe a body of knowledge. We should perhaps approach not only our own institutions, in our own academic institutions to create such initial centers, but also approach University Grants Commission or the ministry to say that how come this body, this field of study has not been supported? And after all, when gender studies began 40 years ago, Center for Study of Women were supported by UGC and created in 50, 60 universities around the world, around the country, and in the region also. So perhaps if we make that case, then we may soon have study centers where several of you may do your research and several of us may be involved in teaching. And that may gradually create a field of study. The field of study in South Asia on childhood and children is likely to be very different from what Piaget or Erikson said. But how it is different is for us to establish. I think the conference like this sets the stage for that conversation. But we need to do a lot more work, theoretically, empirically, but most importantly, pushing for this field to become a genuine field of study. Multidisciplinary, yes, but focused on the study of childhood, children, developmental phases of childhood, and distinguish it from youth, adolescent, those categories of framing, juvenile, So that is important because the societal understanding of childhood gets always influenced by the larger, most prominent debates and narratives that float around. And juvenile narrative has become so prominent that we have forgotten what happens below the age of 10. And that theorization. So even the form of education, the practice by which developmental programs are designed for children, right now Ministry for Women and Child Development starts from women and goes to children. Why can't we start with children and stay with them? We don't have to go anywhere else. So that's my main appeal to you. As I said, I'm not an expert in this field. I was a child, I have kids, and I spend time with them. But I'm not one who's theorizing on this. But by inviting me today, you provoke me to share these thoughts with you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to being with you when we inaugurate the first Center of Study of Children.
Thank you, Dr. Kannan. Now I would like to call upon Professor Devnath Pathak, the chair of this session, to say a few words.
Thank you. There is not much to say after Dr. Tannen's address. He has the conference comes full circle with his ability to address some of the pointers which we had started yesterday. They are reaffirmed in your words. Also, you have reminded us of the necessity of developing that body of scholarship, which would become a ground for future researches and which would also become ground for a stepping stone for starting some of these kind of centers which will be dedicated to studying children childhood. There is absolutely no doubt about the merit of the suggestions that you have given us. The conference yesterday was said, and again today it should be said, and with you we have got to understand it differently. The conference was also an occasion to bring about certain kind of dialogue between those who claim to be academics and those who claim to be non-academics. Actually, there is intellectual value of ideas, insights coming from all quarters. Probably it's necessary that some kind of childhood study would happen, would begin to take shape, in which the doors and windows will be open and we will be able to listen to all kind of voices. And in the meanwhile, we would be also self-critical about some of those things that we take for granted. And you have reminded us in your valedictory note that this framework, certain kind of dominant framework, have to be first of all questioned, and that would be probably the starting point and not the real point of our researches. A critical understanding, however, with the perspective on the kind of processes that unfold in the experiential field of childhood, that idea is very well taken. There are several lessons. I will not try to recapitulate all of them, but the fact that you rightly started on the note, it may be said in a light-hearted manner, but they are actually meaningful. The moment we think of South Asia, institutionally we may have frustrating experience when we think of South Asia. When we think of South Asia through some of those organized bodies. But then when we think of South Asia as a conglomeration of people, their practices, their cultures, their ideas, then probably we are free from the visa regime of all kinds, and there is a possibility of coming together at the level of mind, physically, recalling friends and enemies as well from various parts of the region, and also seeing that possibility that probably there is a relationship amongst enemies too, which may not be admissible by those organized way of thinking about South Asia, where enemies are deleted from the list of invitees, but for us, that kind of consideration. So there is a possibility of still working with the idea of South Asia, which would be different kind of idea. So the conference has tried to do something amid a lot of other things which may not be working. Probably this part of the conference has worked, that it has provoked a lot of us with a lot of interest to go further ahead from with the papers and also with the understanding that we have developed, and try to create newer horizons in this direction. And with your blessings, your experiences in the backdrop, I'm sure we will make some steps forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is the ritual performance that I have to do now, and it also kind of a reminder of the like our childhood memories in South Asia, like when they, the dusk with the sun setting, the parents will remind and chasing that this is done now, much of play now, go back to the studies. So it's like we have come to an end that now we are being pushed away. But it was a wonderful, conference which gave us an opportunity to meet. And of course, before I start this, ritual performance, I just wanted to say that the South Asia has become a little bit of meaningful because we could come maybe from Dhaka. And I should actually thank to those officials and some of the unofficials who has actually do some sort of those South Asian, mechanisms to get a visa overnight. And then on the last night, just on the 14th, we could arrive taking the last flight from Dhaka, which is just 2 hours, and from Kolkata it will take the same amount of time. So really thank to those, officials in the High Commission and some of the unofficial people who really knows all this mechanism. So yes, this conference, of course, has been kind of a brainchild of Professor Biswajit Das, Dr. Devnath Pathak, and F.B. Khan, and both of the conveners. On behalf of both of the conveners, Professor F.B. Khan and Dr. Devnath Pathak, this is my responsibility to thank to the organizers first. Of course, Department of Sociology, Southeastern University has, maybe we should clap because Center for Media and Mass Communication Studies, Jamiahamdard, as we got to know that this is growing institute in Delhi and in India, which will grow more. And this is one of the landmark event that will maybe take this institution away and ahead. Of course, PRIDE, Child Rights and Youth, Bal Raksha Bharat, North India Regional ICSSR New Delhi, CMEC Institute of Technology, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Professor Biswajit Das, who has been so putting all the efforts, and we all know that we are missing him in a great way. But of course, along with him, as I say, Dr. Devnath Pathak and F.B. Khan, their efforts are being visible here. Professor Reshma Nasrin, Director in Charge, Cmmsofficial-Jamiahamdard, ma'am is present here again with us. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Ashraf Alam, Jamiahamdard, who inaugurated the event, and we were happy to learn that he always welcomes this kind of collaborative initiatives. So we believe that we will do more such activities in Jamiahamdard. Ms. Pooja Marwa, CEO of PRIDE, Mr. Sudarshan Suchi, CEO Bal Raksha Bharat, Dr. Rajesh Tandon, Founding President Priya, who is with us in the valedictory session, Professor Hiraman Tiwari, CHS and Director, North India Regional ICSSR New Delhi. These are the people who has kind of put their ideas, support to make this event happen. When we could successfully conclude this, because the distinguished chairs and the panelists, they put their critical thoughts and ideas. I would begin with Shashank Shekhar's name, who is founding lifetime trustee of DCPCR Sambhavana, writer and teacher Kamla V. Mukunda, child rights defender Bharti Ali, Deputy Director of Child Protection of Bal Raksha Bharat, Abhijit Nirmal, Asha Singh, former Associate Professor, Lady Irving College, Janki Abraham, Associate Professor, Delhi School of Economics, Tarjit Sabarwal, Honorary Director, CCMG JMI, Vibod Parthasarathi, Associate Professor, CCMG JMI, Professor Ravindra Gopalan, who has come from Central University of Tamil Nadu. We have Shubhendu Bhattacharya, Director, Policy Research and Advocacy, PRIDE, Om Prakash Mishra, IPS, Joint Commissioner of Delhi Police, Professor Dr. Shamim Reja from Dhaka University, Antaryami Das, Deputy Director, Health and Nutrition, Bal Raksha Bharat, Murari Jha, mentor teacher, Delhi School of Economics, visiting faculty at Delhi Teachers University, Manoj Jena, Professor Chair, CSSS JNU, Malika Shakia from Southeastern University, Payal Mukherjee from IIIT, Ritu Sinha, Independent Researcher. I want a big round of applause for all these chairs and panelists. We have the speakers. Without them, this whole conference would have been meaningless, and they had really came up with a wide range of varieties of issues related to childhood. I just read out the name: Anjana Nayak, Salini Shaha, Sohini Shaha, Piyush Khan, Anu Susan Abraham, Maitrey Biswajit Bhattacharya, Mukta Mitra, Ramkanta Satapthe, Sitharami, Sailu Kari, Irtifa Mukhtar, who presented on behalf of Javed Rashid and his team, Atul Mohan, Sayandri, Vikas Pathe, Himgange, Divakar, Roli, Alex, Arwa, Unmi Krishna KP, Akaprabha Chattopadhyay, Kaninika, Yasha, Ijaz Kirani, Gitika Bapan, Fauzia, Alsaba, Uishi Sarkar, Daud Mohammad Khan, Kajal Rani, Dipanjali Sreshtha, Nipuni Pachidage,
Angelica Jessica Gomez. These are our presenters. The co-chairs, we hope you to take this forward with their support and whatever they have written and put their efforts and hard work. Anish, Sarvapriya, Protima, Safara, Ankur Verma. These are our reporters. Of course, the beautiful video that we saw, they just made it, I don't know how did they make it. I just saw that before lunch sessions were also included. So, along with Gulam, the team, in that team, Amir, Atif, Akif, Ayush, Farjan, Momin and Shaban. These are the people who did their reports here. We had a kind of long list of volunteers from Jamiahamdard. They are so enthusiastic and quite encouraging. A pity, but I believe that you all are part of us. So I'm not just reading the names. There were volunteers from South Asian University. I thank them as well. I especially convey my thanks to the CRY team and Bal Raksha Bharat team who has put a stall outside to make us feel that this is a childhood and there are issues. They have some nice brochures and booklets which were maybe some of the takeaways. I want to convey thanks from the conveners as well as the organizers, particularly the people who work from behind. The people who are in maintenance of this auditorium hall, the IT people who were always there, that's why we could do this, and also the food and catering, the wonderful food at Jamiahamdard. And it felt like you're always eating, and that's what got evident in the video as well. A special thanks to Dr. Siddiqui and Dr. Juma. They are all around and making sure that we are finishing on time, eating on time, doing everything on time. So there were also young forces behind it, and this shows that this is a conference not only about the childhood but also need to carry it forward on the younger generation. And Apur, Avinash and Shayani, these three young forces were working not only the conference day, they were working for months. And the person, maybe even if I forget to say the name, you all know, and who made us feel that Professor Das is not here. Even without his absence, we could feel that things are going well. Shaili is one of the brilliant students that this has produced. Even if I don't say, you would certainly know Shaili. So I think this is all, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank Prabodh. Prabodh is not here visible, but he is visible somewhere here, in every brochure and pamphlet that you have got. So he has become our model for this conference, So this conference has become quite iconic and symbolic because of Prabodh's this childhood photo. So Prabodh grew, and that Prabodh is the son of Dr. Pachak, and he has very politically put this, I believe. So a big round of applause for Prabodh as well. So with this, the ritual performance got over, and before I leave, I feel that the cultures of childhood in South Asia that we learned even to this valedictory session, that and as our valedictory speaker has said, that all the valedictory lectures are like a new beginning. So even this has proven that this is giving us lots of new idea that how it will now take its next step. And I believe the next step should be going away and going out of maybe only Delhi centric and India centric, and the childhood of Himalaya or childhood of Afghanistan, childhood of Ceylon, or childhood of Brahmaputra and Bay of Bengal, we should explore in the next round of this childhood initiative. Thank you very much.